Hey all, this is kind of a new concept we wanted to put up on social, kind of get out in the open a little bit more. I'm very big into obviously fires, and especially this time of year in November as we kind of move into Thanksgiving, trying to create a little bit more of a personalized feel to kind of ultimately who we are as a team, what we focus on, what we do. We kind of like to one take stuff as much as possible. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Greene, head coach of Toledo women's rowing. Just started last December here. Formed a staff over the course of the last year. We have an assistant coach, Anna Can, who came on in March. We have another assistant coach, Abigail Goodwin, who's from Toledo, actually. All of our staff is from Ohio, which is pretty cool, some local blood. But ultimately came on in the summer. So now we have 3 full-time coaches, including myself, as well as an athletic trainer, Reed Barr. We also have a strength and conditioning coach. We also have an academic advisor who works closely with the girls on our team. We have all the bells and whistles, which is kind of nice. Still more to do, of course, and still more to accomplish, but one of the most impactful things that we can do as a coaching staff is ultimately getting you guys knowledge, especially as recruits, especially as a community, a little bit more about what the coaches are about, what our visions are about, and then ultimately getting to know us a little bit better as coaches. So we'll probably, do a dry run of this. We call it the Fireside chat. Ultimately, right? Of course, keeping warm by the fire is really valuable this time of year. Toledo's not super cold right now. It's kind of nice. We've got blessed with nice weather, but I want to create an open air sort of kind of room that ultimately can let recruits reach out, that community members can reach out, current team members can reach out, field questions that they have. So yeah, just one taking it up for what could be 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even more. Kind of editing it down as much as we need to, if at all. But the main goal is to have you guys learn something not only about myself as a coach, what the philosophy is around the University of Toledo women's rowing team, what our goals are, what our visions are, and ultimately getting to the point where we can be very transparent and create a lack of barrier, if you will, between what is the future of our team and what is the present of our team. So some athletes reached out, wanted to get to know the coach a little bit better. Myself, Chris Greene, like I said, I've been in the sport of rowing since I was 14 years old. So it's been quite some time. Started rowing. I'm from Cincinnati. So Ohio born and bred, but started rowing when I was 14 years old, 15 years old, right around there. Was a football player most of high school. Treated it very much like a recreational sort of social atmosphere because everybody played football in Ohio. They still do in a lot of ways, but I think the goal for us the goal for myself was to find something that really connected to me, I would say, a little bit more emotionally, mentally, something that challenged me. To the point that I could reach my thresholds. And I felt like, rowing could have been that and could be that. So I joined at the influence of some middle schoolers who ended up going to high school with me, who said, hey, you're tall, you might as well row. You should probably check it out and try it out. So started rowing I would say it was the end of fall of my sophomore year of high school. Football season had just ended. They said, come on down. I started erging. Erging for me was not exactly the easiest because I was so not used to working out any more than about 30 seconds at a time. Being a football player at that point, we didn't really do too many sprint runs, and even if I did do them, it wasn't exactly the best in terms of running. So I always wanted to do a sport that didn't involve running. That was one of my biggest goals, and rowing, sure enough, appease that side of myself because I wasn't good at running. I didn't know necessarily that I would be good at sitting in a boat going backwards at that point, of course, but I felt like change was needed and difference was needed. So I tried a new sport. My friends said it was kayaking, kind of. I tried it out. I hated it. I hated rowing. I hated the whole understanding or the thought of erging. Because like I said, I started in the end of November, early December. So it really got to the point where I was on the machine for 3 to 4 months. I had never been in a boat before, but at least I saw progress. It took about a week for me to truly understand kind of what rowing was and what the goals were. I joined a club team in Cincinnati, Cincinnati Junior Rowing Club. And I knew some people, like I said, the middle schoolers who went to high school with me, but I got to meet people from other schools. it was really cool, really helpful, honestly, to kind of see a broader diversity to ultimately what sport could be. So seeing people from different backgrounds, just different socioeconomic statuses, different levels of effort, different parts of the city, and then obviously going to regattas across country was very valuable. Most of our regattas were relatively local, but it was really cool to be able to see new places. My high school self did not travel very often, maybe to Florida for vacation, and that's about it. So it was really cool to go to Tennessee for regattas. It was nice to go to the East Coast for some regattas. We got a lot of blessed opportunities in high school. So it was cool to have a coach, in high school that ultimately, and a coaching staff that ultimately cared about our well-being, that cared about ultimately our goals in the sport, even if we didn't even truly know what the goals in the sport were, but to really cater to the culture of the team and the training mentality and the process of what training was, and the ability to row technically well. I think a lot of what I learned in high school, which I took for granted back then, was ultimately the ability to form connection, to do things in a very smart, very articulate, very detailed way, which I just thought all rowing was, and I thought all high school coaches did. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, they were at a very high level. I was blessed with a lot of good coaches that are still coaching to this day, that have been put in the Hall of Fame for U.S. rowing from a very young age. I've tried to carry that over as much as possible, but yeah, I wanted to kind of present this opportunity of first fireside chat, soon the first one of many, I would say. There will be hiccups along the way. There will be hopefully some light bulb moments for some along the way, but ultimately kind of fielding some questions that we have. So I think, the first question that I looked at, that somebody submitted was what is Toledo, and what does the team mean to you as a coach? And I think it's a very loaded question in a lot of ways. The girls on the team would fully tell you that I do like to get emotional. I think emotion comes with passion. I think it goes vice versa. I think ultimately, if you don't care about the sport, you don't care about ultimately what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do as a team and as a group. I think, you can train and, coach tech and drill and try to develop as much as you can. But, without the right people, without the right fire for the sport, I think ultimately it kind of falls on deaf ears. So I think, you have to, kind of be in a place that ultimately kind of nurtures what you want to achieve, kind of nurtures that holistic sort of balanced mindset of what you want student athletes to be. We're not a team that specifically focuses on just erg scores, or focuses just on how you row technically, or just about kind of creating as much depth as we possibly can. I mean, all those things can be valuable to a certain extent, but I think balance of life and making sure student athletes can focus on whatever they want to study. We have nurses on our team. We have STEM majors on our team. We have athletes on the team doing internships in full. We have 12, 15 credit hours per semester. We've got girls doing more than that even. People who have pretty strenuous schedules. We create a lot of flexibility in how we practice. One of the questions that I received was, what are your practice times? We usually are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday mornings, 6 to 8:15. Saturday morning is usually 7 to 9:15, right around there. And then usually afternoons are on campus. The goal of on-campus workouts was to maintain this sense of ability to get out relatively earlier in the afternoons, so that you can, God forbid, have a nice dinner. God forbid you have time to shower and to study and to go to bed at a reasonable hour. Some things that we certainly don't take for granted. And I certainly don't want to just assume that athletes are professional. Especially in today's, kind of realm of what is collegiate athletics. I think there's so much value to giving a sense of flexibility and a sense of accountability and a sense of adaptability on our end as coaches, to make sure that the athletes fully understand that we care about them. Not just as athletes. We have to care about them as people. And the understanding that, hey, your life gets hard sometimes. You don't have to be perfect all the time. There's value to us being able to be empaths as much as we can. Well, at the same time, it is our job and it is our responsibility as coaches to make sure that we push the team to new heights, that we do challenge them in some capacity, that we do tell them that they're going to do pretty hard workouts. They're going to do pretty hard things along the way. They're going to fail. It is a thing that a lot of people are a little bit scared of. It's going to happen more often than not in a lot of ways, but it will ultimately result in a personal record. It will ultimately result in a better team overall. But I think that message on our end as coaches is to make sure that the athletes understand that you're not perfect. You need to be vulnerable. There are weaknesses in your capacity. That is true, but we normalize. We normalize as much as we possibly can. I take full accountability for the team not doing well sometimes. I don't internalize things as much. I encourage the athletes not to internalize things. I don't want them to go down, I would say rabbit holes, if you will, of negativity. We don't want to spiral. We want to get to the point of being like, today was not my day. I didn't do that workout right. I didn't do it well. I tried to push. I hit a wall. I found a ceiling. I bounced back, knowing full well you have, right now on the roster, 36 athletes plus coaching plus staff of people who are willing to help you and support you and listen to you and sit down and say, hey, what do you as an athlete need? What do you as a person need right now? Which I think can feel a little bit different in this community versus other communities. I think so often it can be about results. It can be about what can you do for me lately? What can you, provide to the team in full when it comes to speed of boats and all things we care about, while at the same time we don't want to do, we don't want to win with people we don't like and don't care about, because ultimately we believe that that's not going to elevate you to the point you need to elevate as a team. So we feel like we are doing the right things. We feel like we are meeting the people where they are. We feel like we are establishing a structure and a stability to ultimately what we are. We were a lot more into the community now than we were obviously when we started. When I walked into my office last December and had an email address, and that's about all I had. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the community at all. We didn't have boats necessarily. We didn't have ergs. We didn't have the equipment or the erg room. We've built everything from scratch. And I think when you build it in your own image, in a lot of ways, and you have the support of the community like we do, I think the sky's the limit. So I'm excited for what the future holds for sure. But what does it mean to me? I mean, it's everything. I mean, culture is everything. The team is everything. I mean, I'm a busy guy, obviously. I have a 6-year-old boy, Forrest, and a 2-year-old Quinn, along with my wife, Emma, and my dog, Gus. We live up in the Sylvania neighborhood. It's about a 15-20 minute drive northwest. Just bought a house actually a week ago. So I'll be here for a very long time with my family, which is exciting and terrifying. The life of a coach, it's always kind of militaristic in a lot of ways. You're moving around a lot. There's things that pull you in different directions. There's motivations that pull you in different directions. But as a coach, and I think it's really valuable to hear for a future athlete, is I'm going to be here a very long time. I'm committed to the build. I'm committed to the hardship. I'm committed to the successes of it. And I'm going to golf clap in the corner when you guys win races as a team. I think I've been there, done that in a lot of ways, and I make sure to provide smiles for the athletes for sure. That's the goal. Coaching philosophy, right? Like a lot of people have a tendency to love to talk about the philosophy of who you are as a coach. I think if it wasn't clear in that monologue there, in a lot of ways, I don't believe in necessarily the yelling mentality of coaching. I think there's more value to the message versus to the decibel level. I think if you just yell all the time, then all of a sudden you become a yeller. It's just kind of a personality and a characteristic, and words don't mean as much. So I think there's a time and a place ultimately to get to the point of, hey, by the way, I'm yelling now, so therefore it means more. But I think the message ultimately is what matters. I think giving the athletes the feeling of accountability. We do a good amount of choice workouts, not necessarily on the water all the time. Sometimes we do, but mostly inside in winter training. We, for example, this week we're doing something called the quad for us, which is, in 8-hour weeks, we have 4 practices basically that we're doing, and we give the athletes the options. We write 4 things up on the whiteboard. We have whiteboards in every single room we have. We have flat screen TVs in every single room that we use, coaches' offices, boathouse, erg room. We like to educate. We like to detail. We like to focus a lot on making sure we're meeting athletes where they are. So, that sense of accountability and adaptability in workouts and practice, especially when we go inside, when it's a little bit colder, we're off season, if you will, which is not ever the case in rowing, as we know. But there's a lot of value to giving athletes that feeling of, hey, by the way, depending on how you feel on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, you get to choose the workouts. And they're all similar kind of, but a little bit different. Some are harder than others on the strain scale, on the 1 to 10 strain scale, if you will. So athletes can choose, and they do a lot better usually when they actually are determining their path versus us as coaches strictly determining their path. So I think there's a lot of kind of good things happening this winter. We've set a lot of personal records as a team already. We've created a top 25 record board in our erg room, which is great to see people kind of have that drive and that push to be a little bit better when we get into kind of the nitty gritty of the season, which strides and hardship, I would say, kind of form you and kind of meld you into what you want to be in the spring. We have some upper class leadership, which is great. We do lose some of our seniors for fall and winter graduation. So we're looking for youth to kind of lead the charge, especially through the spring, which we'll do our absolute best in the spring. That's kind of the goal, obviously. But I think we're also realist and not optimist. I think is kind of the goal of ultimately what we want to achieve as a team is making sure that we're meeting our team where we are and not providing necessarily something that we're not. So we very much understand that building from the ground up and building from scratch is not exactly an easy task, but if you do it the right way, it'll go a little bit faster than what other people believe you can do. So everybody says a wise coach once told me that it takes about 4 to 5 years to fully build something that you find a lot of value in. So for us, I'd like to do it in less than 5 years, of course, knowing my impatient self. But I know full well we don't take shortcuts. It takes hard work, it takes discipline, it takes consistency and message. It takes hard work behind the scenes when no one's watching. And I think a lot of our athletes believe that. A lot of them find transitioning into the next question, core values to be very valuable. What are our core values as a team? Very much depth focused, right? We're growth oriented. We want to constantly meet you where you are, elevate you, say what's good about what you're doing, say what's not so good about what you're doing sometimes, treat it objectively in a lot of ways. But I coach everybody on the team. I coach every single boat on the team. We do a lot of mixed lineups during practice. We want to make sure that ultimately you're in a boat and you could win the day, you could lose the day. It's up. You could do everything right in that practice and still lose the day. I mean, how you message to your teammates, how you build them up, how you give them fist bumps during practice, all of that stuff matters to ultimately what we want to be. And then just ultimately empathy. No one's path is just straight up. It's not really how it works. I think the goal for us is to know that there's ebbs and flows. There's good times, bad times. Winter gets hard for some people. Midterms stack up. Personal life stacks up. Just know you have 40 people around you to just boost yourself up when you're not doing so hot. It's normalizing weakness, and vulnerability. And you're not a robot. As an athlete, I think as coaches we don't act like we are authority figures all the time. We're not. We certainly know boundaries, of course, and borders. But I think the goal for us is to be there, to support, for us to joke around, to be stern where we need to be, but also be humoristic where we need to be. I think there's a lot of value to that. So trust and trustworthiness, if you will, I think are very valuable. To the ability to trust each other, the ability to show up for each other, the ability for us as coaches to be trustworthy, to know that we're going to back up our word. I think makes a world of difference for us to see you. And when I say see you, I mean see you in a way of positivity and negativity. We see what you're doing. We're accountable. We're meeting with support staff every single week. We're meeting with nutritionists. We're meeting with all the things that make you holistic. We, in some ways, not to scare anybody, but we know you in some ways faster and even more so than you know yourself in some capacities in college, because we want to make sure we're nipping things in the bud and not seeing any negative patterns that can, kind of derail athletes. We don't want to get to that point. So we try to stay in front of the curve as much as we can in order to ultimately have a really good GPA as a team. We recruit really smart athletes to our team. A lot of high GPAs. We give a large amount of academic award to smarter athletes, who have really high weighted GPAs. We do everything in weighted GPAs, which is kind of a blessing. So it's cool that we can meet athletes where they are throughout the entire process. And then ultimately just, instilling, if they don't already have it, especially as a walk-on, a sense of passion for the sport, but more so even a passion for the fine details. Those who have been rowing for 4 years, I always say to the athletes, time spent in the sport and experience in the sport are two very different things. So we could have athletes and recruits who have rowed for 4 or 5 years. Is that experience or is it time? Because you might have spent 4 to 5 years, but did you ask questions? Did you sponge knowledge? Did you do extra work? Did you, go to your coaches and ask more questions? I mean, all these things can increase your experience level. So, some walk-ons on our team already have, in some ways, more experience than some of the recruits on our team. It just is what it is. So we want to cater to that side of being a student, but you have to have fire for it to ask questions, or else you're just going to go through the motions. In a sense, especially on a new team, we're brand new. We literally started, practicing as a team. Our walk-on process started in the end of August, early September. It is now mid-November-ish, right around there, end of November, as we kind of move into Thanksgiving. So we haven't been around very long, but we have a resilience to what we do. We're forged by fire. No pun intended, of course. We're forged by fire in a lot of ways, with ultimately understanding that we're strong where we need to be, we're vulnerable where we need to be. We have really good days where 100% of the team PRs. We have other days where not as many people, and all of a sudden they tried to push a ceiling, get knocked backwards by it, and didn't PR for whatever reason. It doesn't dictate our success. Success, what we always say, is dictated by the process. I literally just had this conversation with an athlete on the erg yesterday about just making sure that even if you got a result you really liked, is it replicable? Can you do it again? If you can't do it again, then you just kind of flew by the seat of your pants and got lucky. And we want to make sure to be able to replicate results, and the way to do that is to be able to replicate a process and to replicate the success of that process. So I always encourage recruits to get to the point where you can kind of tweak things and modify things when it comes to maybe the technique of your stroke, or, hey, my shoulders aren't getting over here on my hips, or I need to get vertical shins. What does that actually mean? But connecting the whys to what you're doing as a coach, that's probably the most valuable thing we can learn as coaches. And, another question, ultimately had to do with what are coaches looking for usually in the recruitment process? And I think it is, at least for us, process-based, and it is development potential. It's getting to the point where I can sit there and say, okay, I can see this erg video you sent me, this rowing video across multiple months or half a year or 2 years even, for some of the recruits we talk to, getting to the point where I can see change, I can see progress. I can see that you're a coachable athlete instead of just going through the motions, because that's how we're going to coach you, is in a place of right now. And what you could be down the road. If an athlete comes up to me and says, "Coach, I PR'd, I crushed it," I'm not going to just walk away and say, "Good job," walk away. I'm going to say, what was good, what was bad, what are you going to modify, what are you going to change, what parts, what intervals were not necessarily exactly where you wanted and why. And it's kind of peeling the onion, if you will, and peeling the layers off a little bit more. So yeah, we want people who are driven. We want people who want to be better. And some people say they want to be better, and then they do the exact opposite action-wise. We actually want people who want to live in the moment, because we do so much on our end to balance your life and to make sure you can live in the moment. But if you're not living in the moment, we're trying to ease everything outside of rowing so that you can sit on an erg or sit in a boat. And I'm like, "Hey guys, you ready?" And you're like, "Hell yeah, I'm ready. Let's go." It's getting you to that point where you can make an uncomfortable decision in a lot of ways. How do you see the team growing in the next 2 to 4 years? We've gone from 0 athletes. I can't tell you how much stress I had back in December, January, when we didn't have a single person on our roster. Kudos and blessings in a lot of ways to the class of 25. Took a chance. I don't like to use the word sell in a lot of ways because it sounds so business-like, but we told them who we were going to be. We said, "Hey, this is who we are. We don't have an erg room. I'm working on ergs. We're working on blade designs. We don't have blades yet. We don't really have boats yet either. And coaching launches, we're working on it," right? You say what you want and what you're achieving and what you're buying and what you're building and what your growth process looks like. So they would come to campus and visit and understand full well it was a rough draft. So testament to the class of 25, it's the current first years on our team, for the amount of work they've put in, not only when it comes to actually training and working hard on a team that in some ways is bigger now because we had a good walk-on process group, but ultimately they're like, I can see what I'll be as a junior. I can see what I'll be as a senior. We have some transfers on our team. We have some upperclasswomen on our team, whether it's recruits or walk-ons, but we have a lot of athletes who have experience rowing, but also tons, arguably more than 90% of our team just started rowing this August. So it's been a process. I probably have more gray hairs than I did back in December in a lot of ways, but salt and pepper is a good thing, right? I think stress forms you and it melds you and it forges you into ultimately what you want to be as a coach in a team. So I think the fact that you can get to a point in your career where you can push a boat off a dock with rockets on their oars and smiles on their faces with unis you've created as a coaching staff with a community that backs you as much as Toledo does. It's pretty cool, and honestly, it's pretty unique. And I knew that was eventually going to happen because it's one of the reasons why I moved here in the first place was a sense of newness and a sense of novelty in my career. But as the team will tell you, the emotional side pops up when you least expect it in a lot of ways. And then all of a sudden you're talking to the team and you look around you and you have perspective. And you're just like, man, this is just so crazy. It's so weird to be in a scenario where you've built something, and created something with people who believe in your vision and are like all in on your vision. And then ultimately you go down a course, and we had a heck of a fall, in a lot of ways for where we were as a team. Another question on this list is, did your team meet or exceed the expectations you had starting at Toledo? Yeah, I would say we had a heck of a fall season. We had 4 races total, the first being the Glass City Regatta, which was a local race at home. That was September 20th, which for us is a very early regatta for our season because we were still in a walk-on process. We had a 3 to 4 week walk-on tryout period where the athletes were shopping, if you will, and we were shopping them in some way, just trying to make sure that they knew what it took. They started training on the erg. Eventually, when they graduated, past at least the basic technique of the erg, we started putting them in boats. We started integrating them with the recruits very quickly. It was a pretty stressful September because we had 3 coaches and we were all together, recruits, walk-ons, experienced, non-experienced, all with the understanding that we had to race in 3 weeks and our walk-on process fully wasn't over yet. So that was quite the regatta, and the fact that thank God it was local. Thank God it was convenient for us logistically. But it was interesting because, it was something new for us as a team. It was something new for our community in a lot of ways of wearing the colors on our home body of water on the Maumee River downtown. And then it shifted a little bit when we went to Yinzer and Pittsburgh and we raced other college teams. It was a little bit more chill, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more down to earth in a lot of ways. So it was interesting to go there. We did, fairly well across all of our boats. And then we went to Philly, and Schuylkill, the head of the Schuylkill is a completely different regatta. There's more teams, there's high schools there, there's tons more trailers. It was a unique experience in the fact that it was a multi-day regatta. It was our first multi-day regatta of the entire fall. All these athletes, except for a handful, had never been at a regatta, of course, of that magnitude, and certainly had never stayed overnight. So we stayed in the heart of downtown Philly. We got them, situated with ultimately being in the city, which was pretty cool for them to see a new place. Some of them had never traveled, just like myself in high school, had never traveled out of the city. Or out of where they grew up. So for them to be able to have that day where you go, you rig the boats, you race on or practice on the course. We had a terrible first day, and the girls on the team would tell you straight up with me that I got emotional in the fact that emotional the opposite way, which is more like, guys, we have to be better than this. We have to conduct ourselves in a different way. We have to execute like we deserve to be here. Even though we are brand new, and it is our 3rd regatta ever as a team, and our biggest by far to date regatta as a team. And of course I cried. And I made the joke. I made the joke that I should cry more often because literally the next day was drastically better. It was night and day. We had a great day. We beat some teams in our conference at the level that we were at, which was awesome. It made everything worthwhile. And honestly, the smiles on the faces were totally worth it because of resiliency. They knew full well what the day before was. They knew full well, and they had enough perspective at that point in the fall to understand that what we did was special. So putting some radar, kind of focused a little bit more on Toledo that day. We made sure to get some good videos from that, and chatted about the races a little bit more, and understood what was success and not success on that regatta. And then Indianapolis, Bald Eagle Collegiate, last regatta was November 1st. Did great. The team brought home 4 medals. It was a really special day for everybody. We missed out on a couple of results here and there, 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there over a head race, 15 and a half minutes, 16 minutes. We'll take it, right? It's a brand new team. We'll take it. It's all perspective. It's getting to the point where, we can leave a regatta saying full well, like, man, we are executing at a certain level now, depth-wise, and how we conduct ourselves, how we support each other during regattas, how we help each other out, and then we just have to go down a course a little bit faster. So I think it's been great to see the coaching staff come together. It's been great to see the girls on the team connect a lot more. They've been doing a lot of kind of meetups outside of practice, fully, arms opening to all the walk-ons, arms opening to the recruits on recruiting visits. The hosts have been awesome, bringing athletes, especially the class of 26, into the fold of what our team is, and a lot of what we do on recruiting visits, which is another question, is making sure that we bring, 4 to 5 athletes on visits together, and we give them the experience of what is the present. We don't talk about finances. We don't talk about the future necessarily. Sometimes we'll go through contract stuff, but not often. It's mostly about the team, living with the athletes on the team, in the dorms, getting them fully integrated, seeing Toledo, going to the market, going to breakfast, seeing practices, how we conduct practices. It's getting them in the fold and seeing if this is a second family that they could see themselves contributing to. It has to go both ways. Ultimately, the hosts are measuring, if you will, the recruits, just like the recruits should openly measure the hosts and measure the team. And it should be a mutual relationship. And then we come to a fork in the road and we say, hey, if this is a place that you see yourself thriving and succeeding, I think if we can educate you to the point of pushing your ceilings and finding yourself, you're going to be drastically happier outside of just strictly rowing. I want people to choose college based on academia, based on geography potentially, based on potential on internships, networking opportunities, mid-sized city, close to home, whatever it is, the ability to be in classes more often, small classroom sizes. I think there's so much more to college than just rowing, and that's coming from a rowing coach. But I think that's a really valuable thing to understand from a coach to a recruit standpoint, is that we want to be transparent about how we are. We want to open it up to, hey, look, I don't want you to, run through fire, and then if you come out the other side, you're worth it to us as coaches. That's not really how our mentality is. It's more so how do we make your life easier and your job easier as a student athlete so that you can better yourself and then bring more to our sport and more to our team. That's to digress, of course, because I do digress a lot in calls, and most of our recruiting calls are about an hour for the reason that is being shown right now, because I like to talk. But how do you see the team growing in 4 years? 4 years, we're in the MAC conference, which is great. It's a new conference for rowing. It's a lot of different teams. There's 6 teams total. We have our conference championships, at least for the next 3 years, up in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is about I would say a 35, 40-minute drive from where I live, probably about 45 to 50 minutes from the campus. So logistically, it's very convenient. We will do an overnighter there and then race our hearts out and see what happens. The beauty of 6 teams is that you have the ability to go to NCAAs if you win. Right? So I'm not an optimist, as I told you. I'm a realist. I just kind of put the pieces in place and let the athletes kind of decide ultimately what they want to achieve and what they want to do. As long as we're doing things smart, that's really all we can control. So I don't think we ever really talk about we have to win this race, or hey, our competition is this, or I don't really look to lane 6 when I'm in lane 1 kind of mentality. It's very much like, hey, how was our process? How was our sprint? How was our start? How was our base? What could we improve on? What was good? What was not good? It's kind of, we call it Oreo cookies in practice, right? Which is what was good, what could be a little bit better, finish it off with something that was positive and that you want to take into the next piece. Oreo cookies, ham sandwich, insert whatever outsides and inside you want. But the goal is to finish it off with something positive, because at the end of the day, you're probably doing 2 more good things than you are 1 negative thing, or 1 thing you could pick up on. But I think it's very valuable to be objective in your process and your journey. So I want the athletes to understand that, like, just because you finish 5th or 6th in the conference doesn't mean you're not having a very successful year, maybe in a year or 2 years, whatever it is. We're just trying to ultimately find an achievement to what we want to be down the road. So what's next? Let's see. What other fun things do we have going on? Can people still, this is kind of shifting gears a little bit more to recruiting, but can people still walk on with no athletic background? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, our walk-on process is 3 to 4 weeks. We talk to people all year round. I mean, class of 26 right now, like I said, it's November. Most people, we had signing day, two weeks ago, something like that. So when we recruit athletes all the way through, all the way until I would say we finish our class of 26, probably in April. Say first day of April, it's kind of like, okay. We're getting to that point now where most people have made a decision for college, but if somebody comes out of the woodwork and, whether it's a transfer, with the transfer portal opening up at the end of May or December, which is another transfer portal we have, or whether it's somebody who started as a novice their senior year, didn't know they could be fast enough to go to D1, we provide opportunity for all. And that's not just because we're new, that's just because why not? We don't, I mean, the whole roster cap limit, we have 68, on a roster cap. I've never been on a team in my life that has 69 athletes. So I think the goal is to get people who are driven to be motivated, and then, have a non-diluted squad. And what I mean by that is, I don't go to sleep, being like, oh man, if only our, 60th athlete, could do this or that or that or that. I never really think about it. It's more of like, how am I making it as fair of a process and a transparent of enough process and giving athletes enough opportunity to succeed as possible. That's how I think. I don't wake up thinking I'm going to just coach the top 12 or 16 athletes on the team. I think there's a lot more value in coaching the middle, if not the back, because they're going to elevate the people who are at the top. They're going to know full well that the coaching staff knows their name. We care about you. We believe in you. We'll provide as much resource as we can on our end as possible when it comes to finding your ceilings. Who cares if your erg score is slower? Who cares if you're shorter? Who cares if you've been rowing less time? I've seen plenty of athletes who are 5'5", 5'4", beat the snot out of people who are taller with faster erg scores. It just is what it is. Our sport is not erging, thank goodness. For a lot of people, they don't always love the erg. We have a very, very healthy relationship as a team with the erg. It's an opportunity. It's not a punishment. So I want people who want to get better at it, but they also want to get better at core. They also want to get better at weights. Strength and conditioning we do twice a week, Monday, Thursday afternoons for an hour, right? Get better at that. You might not be good at it, but get better at it, right? Just like erging, just like rowing, just like everything else, and it makes you a holistic athlete. So can you still try out? Yeah. Can you try out, next fall 100% for class of 26? Same with 27, same with 28 down the road. But yeah, we will talk to people all the way through and provide opportunity for as many people as we can. And we are very transparent about that whole process. There's not all of a sudden like, hey, by the way, our signing class is over. Our recruiting class is done now. Sorry, next class. We're very open. We have visits for people all the way through the year, unofficial visits for people, official visits usually in the fall. We'll probably have some official visits in the spring of your junior year coming up. And then most likely in the fall of your senior year is pretty much a majority, while some are in the spring of your junior year. So reach out to us. One of the questions was, what's the best way to reach out? We put our cell phone numbers on the website as coaches. I think it's really nice to be able to have that opportunity, to have that luxury, to be able to put our cell phones on there. Our emails are on there. Myself, Coach Anna, Coach Abby, our support staff, reach out to anybody you need. We have virtual tours on our Instagram, so you can go on there and get a virtual tour of the campus. We have a Linktree account set up, so you can fill out questionnaires. We have out-of-sport questionnaires. We have in-sport questionnaires. We have transfer questionnaires. We have kind of everything that you need in order to get started. God forbid that confuses the heck out of you. Just reach out and say, hey, coach, interested, ? How do I get involved? Right? Like we make it as simplistic as possible to ultimately set up a call, and then I'll get to talk your ear off, which will be even more fun. So just having good calls with good people is a lot of our philosophy. Let's see. As the team grows, will we bring more people and boats to regattas, or will it be the fastest on the team? Firm believer in sending as many people to as many regattas as we can, right? The goal is to get you down a course, to put you in the unis, to have you fail successfully. We don't want you to fail school, right? Not that. But failing in a way of like, I learned something with people I like, with people I care about, with people I respect, whether it's the 1V or the 7V. I don't care. Right? I think I want people to realize that they can look at Toledo rowing and be like, wow, opportunistic, balanced, having fun, know when to flip a switch. They know what we focus on, which is the betterment of the person, betterment of the athlete overall, right? The goal is to go down a course and feel success in the process. And the process is determined by the athletes through their own accountability for their own ceilings. So I think the girls do a good job of keeping each other accountable. Obviously, we're not in a place fully yet of full accountability across the team from bottom to top, but that is definitely one of our highest success goals. So yeah, we want to race you. That's the goal, because you can't be resilient and can't learn something about yourself if you don't race. We don't want you sitting on the erg watching your teammates go down a cool race course and blue sky, crisp water, flat water days. It's not helpful for the camaraderie of our team. It's not helpful for having you feel bought into what we want to achieve and what we want to do. We want you to feel it. It's got to be heartfelt. It has to be emotional. It has to be passionate. And if you are not given opportunity, I mean, the blessing of Toledo, if you will, which I've never had this amount of blessing, is that we are very close to a lot of cities. I mean, Chicago's 4 hours, Detroit's 50 minutes. You can get to Tennessee really quickly. Cincinnati's close, Dayton's close, Columbus is close, Cleveland's right over there. The Lake Erie's right here for us. You can get to Philly, and we went to Philly, like I said, Schuylkill, 8.5 hours. You can get to North Carolina not that far away. We have the blessing to get places very quickly, whether it's on a bus, flight, whatever it is, but it provides opportunity to not miss class, very valuable. We want to set a good relationship with the professors and academia, but also to send buses filled with athletes to go race at regattas. And if we do go to a little bit more of a selective regatta, for example, like the Head of the Charles, Head of the Schuylkill is kind of selective, but we send everybody anyway. But Head of the Charles, we'll race a different event. We'll race a different regatta that weekend for, everybody who didn't go to the Charles, that sort of thing. So we want to, if you could fit on a bus, which is 52 athletes, maybe we'll even send a shuttle van following along with the bus, depending on the size of our team. But yeah, the goal is to race as many people as possible. So, did your team meet? Yes, we did that already. More recruiting style stuff or more personal stuff, I could go that direction. We've kind of split it up a little bit. What was your experience? What kind of athlete? What kind of athlete were you in college? How I was in college is very much how I am now in a lot of ways, which is technical, culture focused, and training focused. Those are the three paramount things you have to be as a team. Is very technical, very training oriented, taking care of each other, right? Believing in each other, forming camaraderie, having team meetings, having boat meetings, boat meals, team meals before regattas, after regattas, hashing out any sort of negativity, right? Bringing things out into the forefront. If they do pop up, nipping drama in the bud as fast as you possibly can as a coach. I think it's even more valuable as a coach than it was as an athlete for myself. But I was in the tanks constantly in college. I was constantly using tanks in high school. I was focused on what my grips were doing, what my hands were doing. Were the handles in the right spots on my hand? Was it too high? Was it too low? Was it right where I needed it to be? What were my calluses doing? Did that indicate certain things when it came to my grip? What was my body doing? More lean back. How could that help me? How could that hurt me? Just like constantly loving it. And I think constantly asking questions about it was really valuable. I just so happened to have great coaches along the way to help me along that process. But I think I always wanted to be like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that I can't let go, even if I just started. It's something so new and so novel. And then I think the turning point was really the moment I went to my first big big regatta in high school. I was like, oh my God, it's not just Ohio. Oh my God, it's not just Cincinnati. It's bigger than just me and my team. It's bigger than just my own journey and my process. What can I do? What can I do for the people around me? And I think you get to a place in high school rowing especially where yes, you want to improve individually. Yes, you want to get to that next step. Yes, you want to set PRs and maybe get recruited to college, of course. And then you go down a race course and you don't think about the strain of it. You don't think about how hard it is. You don't think about, oh, I'm not going to achieve what I want to achieve. You do everything for each other, right? Like you get to that point where it's like, I love these people so much and I care about these people so much that I can't let them down. I can't not only, disappoint my teammates or disappoint myself, but ultimately this is part of me. The sport is part of my identity, and it's that constant flux and that constant balance between what is attaching it to your identity, but not letting it ruin you if it goes a different direction. And I think that ebb and flow, that blame gaming yourself for stuff is very helpful, but then not internalizing it or letting it beat you up at the same exact time, is probably the most valuable lesson I can give to high schoolers, but also to collegiate athletes at the same time. So we talk a lot about, you didn't do this right. This is why you didn't do it right. You should tweak this and modify, but you're crushing it. Don't let it kill you. Don't let it get to the point where all of a sudden you're doubting being a rower or doubting being a coxswain or doubting whatever. I think there's so much more to rowing than just strictly having a good day. It's like an athlete said the other day, just be the goldfish, right? Be the have short-term memory loss and go into the next piece and the next piece. Whoop. Almost got it. I almost lost it there. It's all one take. But ultimately having that sense, that ability to be like, I am going to forget that one. That wasn't great. I can be humble enough in that pursuit to know it wasn't great and ultimately change it and dictate. And I can change the whole workout. I can change my whole week with decisions that are ultimately progressing towards, whether it's technical change or whether it's training change or whether it's mindset or whether it's nutrition, or all these things make you ultimately who you are. So make better decisions over time to ultimately get to that place of betterment. What do you wish you could have told yourself in high school? To soak in I was pretty present-minded, I would say, but to soak in every cool little opportunity. So often you do get focused so much in the result and performance and getting to that place of like we had lofty goals in high school. I mean, our team had, I think my freshman year, before I even got involved in rowing, they had won the national championship in the 8. My sophomore year, when I first got involved, I was a novice. They got second. My junior year, when I was on the team, I got seat raced out of the varsity 8 in the last couple weeks. So it didn't feel good at the time, but it definitely taught me lessons that I learned all the way and kept all the way through college and all the way till now, really, is look, nothing's handed to you. Anything can be taken away at any time. Soak in the moments, soak in the memories. I don't really remember, outside of the big races that kind of either, shifted the gear, whether it was nationals. We ended up winning nationals my senior year in the 8, which was awesome. Or the memories of just, singing songs with your boatmates in the car before a race. I wish I could remember, because my memory's not as good as it used to be, obviously being 39. But soaking in those moments a little bit more and being able to fully remember those and adopt the change and the transitions of where I came from. I think from where I started to where I got to in high school was so drastically different that I would like to just go back and live those moments and feel those moments a little bit more colorfully, I think. So as a high schooler, soak in the present, and focus in the past, but not in a way of having it eat away at you. Focus on where you come from and where you are right now and say, man, imagine what I can be down the road. That's great. But right now, just walking with a strut, and you walk with a strut even through your negative, even through your negative pathways. Walk with a strut, because it's probably drastically better than where you came from. And it's not where you came from is always negative, but where you came from at some points was pretty bad. So when you feel good, and that's what we encourage on our team as well. So yeah, what do I tell myself? Yeah, soak in the moments and enjoy the moments. And, if I had known I was going to be a rowing coach in high school, maybe it would have gone a little bit differently, but I didn't think I'd be a full-time Division I rowing coach back when I was 17 years old, 16 years old. So I think a lot of how I adopted sport end of my high school career into college, how I conducted myself, has led me to be the coach that I am today, of course. Life experience has led me to the coach I am today, of course. So I think even if I told myself something back in the day, would I believe myself? Probably not. So I think live in the moment, control what you can. Let's see. What kind of athlete were you in college? What has impacted you most in your coaching career journey? I mean, if I didn't give a shout out to every coach that has ever coached me in my life, I'd be doing a disservice. I think you learn and you take from your coaching career as much as you can from those who have impacted you. Some things you take more to heart, some things you take more to your head. Some coaches are a little bit more focused on training and technique. You focus a little bit more on kind of the objective. Some coaches, which I've had or have worked alongside in my career, have been very vision oriented, have been very emotionally invested in athletes and teams. I think I take a little bit of everything. I dismiss what I don't necessarily love, which, based on perspective, can be very valuable. If I didn't have as much experience and perspective as I do, maybe I would lose some things that are really helpful. But I feel like you can only believe in yourself, right? You can only have enough confidence. And, I told my boss, Nicole Harris, she's our associate AD. She's been a blessing the entire way. I tell her all the time, I feel like I'm the best coach in the country. Because, what's the alternative? You know what I mean? You might as well believe full-heartedly in yourself, but as long as you don't let it dictate necessarily your decision-making and you don't let it create a lack of humility, or you don't let it create substance in yourself, believe that, because then you kind of have to try to live up to it. Your work ethic is going to be dictated by what you believe, So I think getting to the point where you might not necessarily believe you're the best erg in the room or the best rower technically in the room or whatever, but believe that you're pretty darn good and you have a lot to improve upon. But with hard work and with your effort and with your belief in yourself, you can achieve a lot. Even more so than you believed you could before. So I think getting to that point as a coach where you can distinguish what is valuable, not valuable, what you want, what you don't want, what caters really well to your personality versus not, because you can't coach everybody exactly the same way. I think there's a lot of kind of hard choices you have to make in your career. I've made some pretty harsh decisions, not only for me, but for my family. Through this journey. It's not been unicorns and rainbows. It has not been, up, this is awesome, can't wait to keep going. It has been, and another coach told me once along my journey, was stay in it. When things get tough, when things start to push it down, when it looks like rowing as a career is not super valuable and it's not getting you where you need to go, hold on to the memories of you as an athlete. That's great. A lot of people as coaches want to just further their ability to stay in rowing. I think some people ask me, do you still row? And no. I retired from the athletic side of rowing a long time ago. It's really not about that for me anymore. It's more about the ability to see change and progress in athletes, and that motivation goes a very long way. It's kind of the ability to prove myself has kind of lost its luster. I don't think that's really what it's about for me anymore, about what it's like for a lot of coaches who have been around for a long time. I think it's more about that ability to find something in the athletes and see change across from start to finish. So I think that's the biggest focus. And what I've picked up on is not about necessarily rowing as a sport. It's more so, I do love the sport still, but it's more so about the progress of start to finish for athletes. Let's see, what else we got on here? Going back to more recruiting stuff. How late is it too late to recruit? Not late. For some schools, it might be too late. They might give you a hard deadline on certain things. For others, it's open throughout the year depending on the size of their team. So I think for us, it's kind of always open. Best ways to recruit, reach out to us, make sure to have communication. Our process is usually having a call. It's more of an informational call with recruits. And then we go in the direction more so of like Zoom calls, chats with parents. We do a lot of chatting. We meet every parent of every recruit we bring onto our team. We talk about who we are. We field questions, Q&As. We don't force timelines or rush people on decision-making process. We want you to make 100% of a decision for 100% of yourself. So especially through this time of year in November, we still have athletes who haven't made a full choice yet for us. And we've never said, hey, hurry up, please. It doesn't make any difference for us as a coaching staff. I think, getting an athlete to have the ability to reflect and say, my pros and cons of all these different colleges and all these different places, and what do I truly want? And I've had time to decide and figure this out for myself. 4 years in the grand scheme of things is not a ton of time. So the ability to sit there and reflect as a student athlete, I think is really valuable, more so than me just forcing a decision on somebody. What do college coaches most look for? Technique and training. Development, progress, being able to, keep in communication is very valuable. Ghosting. We never really ghosted the athletes. I don't think that's really helpful for what we want to achieve. I've never ghosted anybody. I've always returned emails. I've always returned calls, especially when we're not busy. If we're at a regatta or out of country, whatever, I totally understand, and hopefully you guys do, as recruits, that, we get busier at certain times than others. But 9:30 on an erg, 7:30 on an erg, 6:30 on an erg. We probably don't recruit any 6:30s, but ultimately we do want to have a good conversation with you. We do want to communicate. We do want to light fires. We do want to, have recruits regardless. Maybe they're just exploring. Maybe they just want to talk to a college coach and they're super nervous. Shoot us a text. Shoot us an email. We'll get back to you pretty quickly. We'll have conversation, point you to the right coaches to talk to, that sort of thing. Just trying to help out the process as much as we can. Because we do have a service, I would say, as a coach and college coaches, to make sure that you're pointed in the direction that's ultimately best for you. It's not being a car salesman and, hey, Toledo's the best. I promise. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. If it's not right for you, go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, we just want to tell you who we are, and, you kind of take it or leave it in a lot of ways. Favorite workout on the erg? Pick your poison, right? There's always value. We send training plans to the athletes all the way from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4, and how we designate those are quadrant 1 being a little bit more of the easier stuff, steady state focus, longer distance, lower rates, all the way up to higher interval training, 30 on, 30 offs, by seconds, trying to hit thresholds and splits you never thought you could hold, kind of thing. There's workouts I like better. There's workouts that are harder. It doesn't always line up. It's not a correlation effect. But I would say the higher interval training, I would say, is probably, I like to see athletes start to have epiphany moments quickly, and the higher interval stuff. The 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, setting it for intervals time, 20 minutes at a time, times 3, can be one that a lot of people find difficult. They love the even rest, of course, but we provide a lot of choice, like I said, a lot of choice workouts, but a lot of long rest time workouts as well. We probably, for a lot of people, waste time. I don't find it to be wasting time, because you never really race 5x2K. You can train that way. We want to be able to race 2Ks. We want to be able to maximize ceiling, so we do give a good amount of rest time between pieces so that people can hit, harder splits and faster splits, and we call it the finding Jesus moments a little bit more often. I'm not a religious person by any means, but finding that epiphany moment, finding that light bulb, finding that spiritual world a little bit harder and a little bit more often helps you line up at the starting line and look across and say, I feel like I've trained smarter. I feel like I've trained harder. I feel like I've done, a lot more kind of finding my capacities than all the teams around me, even if you lose the race. It's finding, like I said, success in kind of your own process and your own journey along the way. Let's see, what else? Roster camp, good workouts, favorite practice time. We're a morning focused team, right? I feel like I've done both. I've done afternoons, I've done mornings. Our body of water, the Mommy, is great in the fact that it's 12 minutes away. Right, it's 12 minutes from our boathouse. You can drive to our boathouse very quickly, very efficiently. We carpool every athlete to the boathouse, which is nice. So it gets in and out very quickly. To practice, from practice, you're able to get to class. You're able to sit in class and focus. We don't have to drive 35 minutes one way, 45 minutes the next. Not uphill in the snow both ways, which can be nice. But I think there's a very much I would say a value to what we want to do for having mornings, because we can get you to clinicals. When we have athletes who leave, practice in their nursing scrubs, to go to clinicals in the morning, to go to class in the morning. I find I just smirk, I just smile, because it's kind of cool that we can do that. So we do have a lot of people who have been told, you can't be this, you can't be that, you got to study this, you got to study that. So I think mornings cater a lot really to what we want to do. And ultimately we do want you to study a lot. We want you to get really good grades. So we provide, Monday, Thursday afternoon weights for an hour, 3:15 to 4:15. Tuesday is a little bit more of a cardio sort of erg session on campus. We created an erg room right down the hall from sports medicine, right down the hall from the athletic training room. So it's really nice to be able to go back and forth, to be able to get any help you need, recovery, PT. We have laundry loops for all the athletes to get their laundry done, rowing laundry, not personal laundry. But there is kind of personal laundry services in the dorms, and it's all free. So all laundry here is free, but then you also have free laundry, you have free the ability to print off stuff for free in the library. So you save money in little snippets here and there, whether it's laundry or whether it's printing services or that sort of thing. It makes a Toledo affordable place. Not only to have services like that, little services for student athletes, but also when it comes to housing. All of our recruits live usually in the same dorm together. We want to transition you really well from high school. So I think a lot of our goal is to make sure that when you show up, it's like, okay, comfortable. I feel good in nutrition. You can get meal plan prepping done every day if you want to. You can put on muscle where you need. You can lose weight safely, of course, right? Do it safely to the point where you're not losing energy during practices, but getting to the point where you're maximizing all the things so that you can, sit in the boat and just go, and feel really comfortable doing that. So, yeah, I think the future is bright. We're excited about kind of ultimately what we want to do down the road. We did really well against some well-established teams this fall. The class of 26, which we will show up on social media relatively soon. We will do a press release. We'll do some social media graphics. We're full bore right now into the class of 27. Class of 28, we can't talk to you until June 15th, so you can reach out. That's great, but we can't respond to you. We're not ignoring you. We just are not allowed to do that yet. But we send stuff out to recruits a good amount. We keep in contact a good amount, but the best way to actually get to know us, to reach out, to kind of delve a little bit more into Toledo and the community is not only your proactive research, right? A lot of recruits have a tendency to just talk to us and not really do their own. I would definitely encourage you to do your own research, to chat with the coaches, whether it's myself, Coach Anna, Coach Abby, along the way. But by the end, regardless of where you start, whether it's with an assistant coach or myself, you will eventually have a Zoom chat with me and your parents. That's usually how it works. I wouldn't necessarily call it a fireside chat per se, but to be fair, I usually do have a fire going, and I usually do have a cup of coffee. So it's usually, whether it's afternoon, morning, whatever it is, the team always makes jokes about how much I love coffee. And I certainly do, being a morning-focused team,